The train does not slow when the first man begins to cry. It is a low sound at first, barely human, swallowed by the grinding iron of wheels against frozen rails. The boxcar smells of old sweat, damp wool, fear that has soaked into wood and cannot be scrubbed away. 30 men stand packed together, shoulders pressed, breath fogging the air. No one asks who is crying. Everyone knows. Ernst Keller grips the strap of his bread sack like it might vanish if he loosens his fingers. The sack is nearly empty now, only crumbs crushed into dust. But it is habit, not hope, that keeps his hand clenched. His knuckles are white. The skin over them is cracked, bleeding into the fabric of his sleeve. The cold is everywhere. It crawls up from the floorboards, bites through boots with holes worn thin by months of marching, months of standing at roll call in Siberian dawns where the sky looks like a blade. The cold lives in the men now. It has learned their names. Someone whispers America. The word moves through the car like a rumor, like a prayer no one dares say aloud. Ernst does not turn his head. He has learned what hope costs. For 3 years America has been a monster in stories, a land of machines and cruelty, a place where German prisoners are worked until their bones show through skin, where guards laugh while men starve. That is what the Soviet guards told them. That is what the camp rumors said. That is what propaganda posters once promised. The enemy is worse than death. The train jolts. Someone stumbles. A man curses softly, then apologizes out of instinct, out of habit learned in a camp where apologies mean nothing. Ernst closes his eyes. In his mind, he sees the Russian camp as it was yesterday morning. The snow flattened hard as stone, the guard tower casting a long shadow like a finger pointing at the men lined up below. The way his stomach folded in on itself when the soup arrived. Grey water with 3 floating grains of barley, counted, memorized, mourned. Transferred, the commandant had said, be grateful. Grateful for what? No one knew. The train finally slows, metal shrieks. The car lurches, then stills. Silence rushes in, sudden and heavy. Ernst feels it press against his ears. Someone near the door crosses himself. Another man begins whispering a name, Marta, Marta, Marta. As if repetition might summon her, the door slides open, light pours in, not the pale, cruel light of Siberia. This light is warmer, almost golden. It falls across faces hollowed by hunger, catches in eyes that have forgotten how to widen. Voices speak outside, not Russian, English. The words are sharp but calm, clipped but not shouted. Ernst understands none of them, but the tone unsettles him more than yelling ever did. There is no anger in it, no threat. A guard appears in the doorway. He is clean. The thought arrives uninvited, absurd in its simplicity. The man's uniform is pressed. His boots are polished. His face is pink with cold, not grey with exhaustion. He looks, fed, for a heartbeat. No one moves. Then the guard gestures. Not with a rifle, not with a kick, but with an open hand. Out! Easy now. Easy. The word lands wrong. It does not belong here. Men climb down from the car one by one. Ernst's legs tremble when his boots hit the ground. The earth beneath him is hard, but not frozen solid. He smells something unfamiliar. Oil, yes, but also coffee. Real coffee. His stomach twists violently. He looks up. Barbed wire still rings the camp. Watchtowers still stand. This is still captivity. He knows that. He tells himself that, and yet there are wooden barracks with intact roofs, no holes patched with rags. Smoke rises from chimneys, steady and grey, not desperate. Somewhere nearby, a truck engine hums. Not the coughing rattle of Russian machines, but a smooth, confident sound. A man beside Ernst whispers, barely moving his lips. Do you see their faces? Ernst does. The American guards are watching them, not with hatred, not with hunger, but with something like curiosity. One of them meets Ernst's eyes and nods, just once, as if acknowledging another human being. The nod is what breaks him. His breath catches. His vision blurs. He presses his tongue hard against his teeth to stop the sound rising in his throat. He will not cry, not here, not yet. They are marched toward a barrack. Inside, the air is warm, warm. The heat slams into Ernst like a physical force. His knees buckle. Someone laughs, a short, hysterical bark. Another man sinks to the floor, hands over his face. On a bench near the wall sits a bar of soap, white, thick, new. Ernst stares at it, heart pounding. Soap is not for prisoners. He hears himself whisper, the words escaping before he can stop them. This must be heaven. The thought terrifies him more than any camp ever has, because heaven, Ernst knows, is not meant for men like him. The train moves again before anyone understands where they are going. It pulls away from the platform with a patience that feels almost deliberate, as if it expects them to look, to notice. Ernst sits on a wooden bench inside the American rail car, his back straight from habit, his hands folded in his lap like a schoolboy awaiting punishment. The bench does not splinter beneath him. It does not smell of rot or old blood. It smells faintly of pine and something clean. Disinfectant, maybe. Across from him, Otto Schreiber turns his head slowly, marveling at the space. There is room to stretch one's legs, room to breathe without another man's breath filling your mouth. Otto's eyes are sunken, his cheeks hollow, but there is color there now, faint and pink, as if life has not entirely given up on him. They want us calm, Otto whispers. That's how they begin. Ernst nods, though he is not sure he believes it. He has learned to agree with fear when it speaks. Fear has kept him alive. The Americans give them water. Not ladled from a rusted drum, not half, frozen, not rationed to a mouthful. Each man is handed a canteen. Ernst turns his in his hands, studying the metal, the intact screw cap. When he drinks, the water is cold but not bitter. It does not taste of iron. It does not taste of despair. His stomach cramps violently in protest. The memory of the Russian camp returns uninvited, the endless counting, the way guards screamed numbers as if they were curses. The way men disappeared at night and no one asked where they went because questions were dangerous luxuries. In the Russian camp, food arrived like a rumor. You smelled it long before you saw it, and by the time it reached your mouth, hope had already burned itself out. Ernst remembers staring at his hands while eating, counting his fingers to distract himself from how little there was. He remembers licking the bowl when no one was watching. He does not lick the canteen now. Instead, he stops halfway through and screws the cap back on, heart racing. He is afraid the water will be taken away. He is afraid of his own need. The train window shows a world that does not look like war. Fields stretch out, brown and dormant, waiting for spring. Farmhouses stand intact, smoke curling lazily from chimneys. There are no burned-out skeletons of villages, no shattered churches, no trees snapped in half like matchsticks. A man near the window presses his forehead to the glass. Look, he whispers, nothing is broken. The words carry shame in them, though no one says why. Propaganda had prepared them for something else. Ernst remembers the posters from before the war turned inward and began devouring itself. Grotesque drawings of Americans with fat faces and cruel eyes. Boots planted on the bodies of starving Europeans. He remembers the radio broadcasts in the camp, the guards forcing them to listen. The Americans will humiliate you, the voice said. They will make you forget you are men, and yet when the train stops again, they are given food. Real food, bread that does not crumble into dust, meat that holds together when you lift it. Ernst hesitates, his hands trembling so badly he nearly drops the plate. The smell is overwhelming, salt, fat, warmth. His mouth fills with saliva so suddenly it hurts. A guard watches him struggle and says something softly. Ernst does not understand the words, but he understands the tone. It is patient. He takes a bite. The taste floods him so completely he forgets where he is. His eyes close without permission. The world narrows to the simple miracle of chewing, swallowing, feeling something solid settle into his stomach. He hears a sound and realizes it is coming from him. A small, broken sob he cannot stop. Across the table, Otto eats too fast and has to stop, gasping, clutching his chest. Slow, Ernst whispers automatically, the way one might speak to a child. The way no one spoke in Russia. Later, when night falls, Ernst lies on his bunk staring at the ceiling. The mattress has stuffing. It does not collapse under his weight. A blanket covers him. Thick, heavy, clean. The fabric smells faintly of soap. Soap, The word circles in his mind like a forbidden prayer. He thinks of home, of his mother boiling potato peels for soup, of letters that stopped coming, of the last winter before capture, when even the clocks seemed to freeze. If this is a trick, he thinks, it is the cruelest one yet, because it is easier to endure brutality you expect than kindness you do not understand. In the dark, someone whispers from the bunk below him. "Ernst, do you think they know?" "Know what?" "That we believed the lies." Ernst does not answer. The train hums softly around them, carrying them deeper into a country they were taught to hate. And with every mile, the old certainty begins to thin. Not shatter, just thin enough for doubt to breathe. The camp reveals itself slowly, as if it knows the power of delay. The truck turns off the main road and rattles along a gravel path lined with tall pines. Their branches sway gently, unscarred, whispering to one another in a language that does not belong to war. Ernst grips the wooden side of the truck bed, his fingers stiff with cold and anticipation. The air smells different here, as in damp earth, something green even in winter. No one speaks. They are braced for shouting, for dogs, for the crack of rifle butts against bone. Instead, the truck stops with a soft shudder. A gate opens, not slammed, opened. Beyond it, rows of barracks sit evenly spaced, painted a dull, practical brown. Paths between them are swept clean. There are no bodies, no men collapsed in the mud, no guards pacing with the twitchy impatience of hunger. A sign hangs near the entrance. Ernst cannot read all of it, but he recognizes one word from schoolbooks long ago. Prisoner, the rest might as well be written in another universe. They climb down from the truck. Ernst's boots hit the gravel and he expects pain, expects the ground to reject him. Instead it holds. A guard gestures toward the barracks, then toward a building with steam rising from its roof. "Shower," he says, slowly, pointing. The word takes a moment to land. A shower is not a thing prisoners receive. The room is tiled, white. The walls echo. Pipes line the ceiling like exposed veins. When the water turns on, it roars. Not a trickle, not a rationed drip, but a full, roaring cascade. Men stand frozen beneath it. Ernst watches water run down his arms, carrying away layers of grime he had begun to think were permanent. The water is warm, hot, even. His skin stings as circulation returns, needles of pain blooming everywhere at once. Someone laughs. The sound ricochets off the tile, shocking in its volume. Another man begins to cry openly, shoulders shaking, hands pressed to his face. No one tells him to stop. Soap is handed out. Thick, white, heavy in the hand, Ernst lifts it to his nose. It smells faintly of flowers. The scent hits him so hard his knees weaken. He has not smelled flowers in years. He presses the soap to his chest like a talisman, afraid it will vanish. Afterward, they are given clothes, not rags, not cast-offs, clean uniforms in neutral colors, wool that does not itch with lice, boots with intact soles. Ernst changes slowly, reverently. Each button feels like a test. He half expects someone to yank the clothes away, to laugh, to remind him who he is. No one does. In the mess hall, the tables are long and sturdy. Light pours in through windows without bars. Plates are set out in neat rows. The food arrives. It is too much. Ernst's stomach twists with fear before hunger even has time to speak. There is meat, real meat, potatoes buttered, bread that steams when torn open. A man across from him whispers, "This isn't real." Ernst nods. He cannot speak. His throat has closed around the weight of it all. He eats carefully, slowly, the way one handles something sacred. Each bite is a negotiation between desire and terror. His body wants to devour everything at once. His mind screams that there will be consequences, but the consequences do not come. Instead, an American soldier walks by, notices Ernst's empty cup, and refills it. Just like that. No demand, no barked order. No humiliation. The soldier's hands are steady, his fingernails are clean. Ernst stares at them far longer than is polite. Later, in the barracks, he sits on his bunk and touches the mattress again, just to be sure it is real. Around him, men murmur softly, voices hushed not by fear but by disbelief. Otto sits beside him, rubbing his hands together as if warming them at a fire only he can see. If they wanted to break us, Otto whispers, they would starve us. Yes, Ernst says. So why this? Ernst does not have an answer. That night, he opens the small notebook he has kept hidden for years. The pages are thin, brittle, but they have survived Russia. He sharpens a pencil stub and begins to write. March 17, he writes, I washed today until my skin hurt. I ate until I was afraid. They looked at me as if I were still a man. His handwriting trembles. If this is mercy, he adds, after a long pause, it is more frightening than cruelty. He closes the notebook and lies back, staring at the ceiling. Above him, the roof does not leak. In the quiet, Ernst realizes something that unsettles him deeply. For the first time in years, he is not thinking about how to survive the night. He is thinking about the morning. Hunger does not leave all at once. It lingers like a memory in the body, flinching at shadows, expecting loss. Even after days of regular meals, Ernst still wakes with his jaw clenched, his tongue pressed against his teeth, as if guarding something precious. His dreams are full of bowls, empty, cracked, endlessly waiting. Breakfast is served at the same time every morning. That alone feels dangerous. The bell rings, clear, calm, almost cheerful. Men pause in their bunks, exchanging glances that ask the same question. Is this real again today? Ernst pulls on his jacket and follows the others, boots thudding softly on wooden floors that do not creak with threat. In the mess hall, the smell hits him before he reaches the door. Coffee. Strong. Bitter, alive, it curls into his chest and loosens something tight and old. His stomach growls loudly enough that Otto grins, embarrassed for him. Careful, Otto murmurs, they might hear you. Ernst smiles despite himself. The expression feels strange on his face, as if muscles long unused are protesting the movement. They are given trays, on them eggs yellow and shining, bread, 2 slices, butter wrapped in paper, a piece of fruit, its skin unblemished. An apple. Ernst turns it slowly in his hand. In Russia, fruit was a story you told children to make them sleep. He presses his thumb into the skin. It yields slightly, firm and alive. He bites. The sound is sharp. Loud, the crunch echoes in his head like a gunshot. Juice floods his mouth, sweet and bright. And for a moment he is 10 years old again, sitting on a fence in late summer, his mother calling him in for supper. His eyes burn. Around him men eat in silence, not the heavy silence of fear, but the reverent quiet of disbelief. Some chew slowly, counting bites. Others shovel food into their mouths too fast, unable to trust that there will be more. There is always more. A soldier walks the length of the hall, carrying a pot of coffee, refilling cups without being asked. He hums softly to himself. The tune means nothing to Ernst, and yet it follows him all day. Later in the yard, Ernst watches discarded apple cores being collected and thrown away. Thrown away. The sight hits him harder than the meal itself. In Russia, he once watched a man beaten for picking a potato peel from the mud. Here, food is so plentiful it becomes trash. The contrast makes him dizzy. That afternoon, he sits with Otto on a bench outside the barracks. The sun is weak but present, touching their faces like a tentative hand. Otto rubs his stomach, shaking his head. I don't know how to feel full. He says quietly, my body doesn't remember. Ernst understands. Fullness is not comfort. It is a warning. It feels like theft, like punishment waiting to happen. That night, Ernst writes again. They give us food until we are afraid of it, he notes. I keep thinking of home. If my mother could see this bread, she would weep. A letter arrives 2 days later. It is passed out with careful formality. Names read aloud in accented German. Ernst's heart pounds when he hears his own. He has not received mail in months. He expects bad news. There is always bad news. The envelope is thin. The handwriting is familiar, his sister. He reads slowly, savoring each word. We eat mostly turnips now, she writes, sometimes nothing at all. The city is quieter, too quiet. Mother says not to worry about you, but she worries anyway. Ernst folds the letter with shaking hands. That night's dinner includes meat again. The injustice of it presses down on him heavy as lead. He eats, but the taste has changed. It carries guilt now. Each bite feels like a betrayal swallowed far from those who need it most. Across the table, a young prisoner named Karl pushes his plate away, untouched. "I can't," he whispers, "not after reading home." No one forces him, no one yells. An American guard notices and kneels beside Karl's chair. He speaks gently, words slow, careful, as if addressing a wounded animal. Karl does not understand the language, but he understands the kindness. He takes a bite. Ernst watches the exchange, something unraveling quietly inside him. This, he realizes, is the deeper wound, not hunger, not captivity, but the knowledge that the enemy eats well enough to share, that abundance exists alongside ruins, that the world is not the simple, starving place he was taught it was. As the days pass, his body grows stronger, his thoughts grow weaker, certainty erodes with every meal, and Ernst begins to fear that when he leaves this place, if he leaves, he will never be able to explain the weight of enough. Dignity is not something Ernst expects to notice. It arrives quietly, without ceremony, woven into small moments that take time to name. It is there in the way roll call is conducted. No shouting, no fists swinging, no rifles raised for emphasis. The men are counted once. The numbers are written down, and then, improbably, they are dismissed. No one lingers to humiliate them. The first time this happens, Ernst stands frozen, waiting for the second act. In Russia, the cruelty always came late, after hope had been carefully invited in and made comfortable. Here, nothing follows. The guards turn away. One even offers a cigarette to an older prisoner whose hands shake too badly to light it himself. Ernst watches the flame bloom, steady and controlled, shielding against the wind. That too is dignity, being allowed to fumble without punishment. Work assignments come next. They are given tasks, sweeping paths, repairing fences, unloading supplies, real work with purpose, not endless labor meant to break the spirit. Ernst is handed a broom. It is solid, well made, its bristles thick and unbroken. He grips it, unsure how to hold himself. In the Russian camp, work meant collapse. It meant bodies failing in the snow, guards shouting as if volume could replace mercy. Here, when a man stumbles, another steps in. When Ernst's hands blister, he is told to stop, told, not ordered. The word settles into him slowly. At midday, a guard named Harris. He learns the name because the man introduces himself, asks Ernst if he understands English. A little, Ernst says, surprised by the sound of his own voice. He has not spoken to a guard as a human in years. Harris nods. If you need something, you ask. Ask. The concept feels dangerous, like stepping onto thin ice. Ernst nods, unsure if he has agreed to something he cannot fulfill. Later, while repairing a fence, Otto drops a plank on his foot. He cries out before he can stop himself, a sharp sound torn from deep inside. In Russia, such a sound would have been fatal. Here, the guards run toward him. Run. They kneel. They examine the foot. Someone fetches a medic. Otto is helped to his feet, supported on either side, guided gently away. As they pass, Otto meets Ernst's eyes, stunned. "They touched me," he whispers, "like I mattered." That evening, Ernst writes in his notebook, "They speak to us as if we are still men. This may be the most dangerous thing of all." He is beginning to understand the shape of it. Cruelty builds walls, kindness dismantles them. Once a week, they are allowed to bathe again. Once a week becomes twice. Cleanliness is no longer a miracle, it becomes routine. And routine, Ernst realizes, is how dignity survives. One afternoon, he notices a guard standing alone, watching the horizon. The man's shoulders sag with a tiredness Ernst recognizes. On impulse, without thinking, he approaches. The guard stiffens, then relaxes when he sees Ernst's empty hands. "You miss home?" Ernst asks, the words halting, imperfect. The guard exhales slowly, every day. The admission hangs between them, fragile and raw. For a moment the war recedes. They are simply two men far from where they belong. That night, whispers ripple through the barracks. "They don't hate us. It's a trick." "No," someone else says. "Hate would be easier." Ernst lies awake long after lights out, staring at the dark. He thinks of the way the guards look at them, not with contempt, not with triumph, but with something disturbingly close to respect. Respect requires recognition, and recognition forces memory. If they are men here, Ernst wonders, what were they there? What did they allow themselves to become? A new letter arrives from home. This one is shorter. The paper is thin, the ink faded. The bombings are worse now, his sister writes. We line up for hours for bread. Sometimes there is none. Ernst folds the letter carefully, his hands steady this time. He tucks it into his jacket and goes to dinner. He eats. The act feels heavier now, layered with awareness. He notices the way the guards eat alongside them, at the same tables, from the same pots. No special rations, no separation. This equality unsettles him deeply. That night, Karl speaks into the darkness. If they are like this, he asks, what does that make us for fighting them? And no one answers. Because the question is not about the past, it is about the future, about who they will be when the barbed wire finally opens, and whether the dignity learned here can survive outside it. Ernst closes his eyes. For the first time, he is afraid not of punishment, but of understanding. The first time they are allowed beyond the inner fence, it feels like a mistake. Ernst steps through the gate slowly, half expecting a shout to snap the moment in two. None comes. The guard at the post checks his list, nods once, and waves them through with a casual motion that feels far too easy. They are marched down a dirt road that curves gently away from the camp. There are no ruins. That is what strikes Ernst first. Not what he sees, but what is missing. No craters pockmark the earth. No blackened shells of houses lean into one another like exhausted men. The road is smooth, lined with grass that has not been scorched by fire. A farmhouse appears in the distance. Its windows are whole. A woman stands in the yard, hanging laundry. White shirts billow in the breeze, bright as flags of surrender. A child runs in circles around her, laughing, the sound carrying clearly through the air. Laughter? Ernst's chest tightens painfully. He turns his head away, as if the sight might accuse him. In Germany, laughter has become rare, fragile, dangerous. Even before his capture, it felt like something borrowed, something that could be taken away without warning. Here it spills freely into the open air. They pass a small store. Its shelves are visible through the front window, rows of goods, stacked neatly, unapologetically abundant. Ernst catches the smell of bread baking somewhere nearby. Fresh bread, not ersatz, not stretched with sawdust or hope. Otto walks beside him, silent now, his earlier curiosity replaced by a heaviness that drags at his steps. They told us everything here was ruined, Otto murmurs. They said they would starve too. Ernst nods. The lies had been necessary. He understands that now. A starving nation needs enemies who starve worse. The guard slows the group near a field where workers, American civilians, are repairing a fence. They glance up, pause, then return to their work. No one spits. No one curses. A man lifts his hand in a brief, awkward wave. Ernst does not wave back. He is not ready. That evening, back in the barracks, the men speak in hushed voices. They have electricity all day. I saw a truck full of fruit. Did you see the child? He wasn't afraid. Ernst sits on his bunk, his hands folded, staring at the floor. The image of the woman hanging laundry will not leave him. The simple, ordinary act of it feels obscene in its normalcy. He writes that night. America is not burning, he writes. I do not know how to place this knowledge inside myself. Another letter arrives. This one is from his mother. The handwriting is shaky, unfamiliar. We sleep in the cellar now, she writes. The house is still standing, but the windows are gone. I dream of bread and wake up ashamed. Ernst presses the letter to his forehead, breathing in the faint smell of home carried by the paper. The contrast between her words and the world he has seen today splits him open. That afternoon's meal tastes like ash. He eats anyway. Guilt has not replaced hunger, it has only joined it. On the next walk they pass a schoolhouse. Children pour out when the bell rings, spilling into the yard like released birds. They shout and push and laugh. Their face is flushed with life. A boy stops when he sees the prisoners. He stares openly, curiosity unfiltered by hatred. His mother calls him back sharply, pulling him close, but she does not glare at the men. Her face holds something like embarrassment. As if she is the one intruding, the realization leaves Ernst breathless. This country has not been shaped by fear in the same way. War exists here, yes, but it has not reached into every kitchen, every dream. It has not hollowed out the future. That night, Otto speaks again into the darkness. If this is what we fought, he says softly, then what did we destroy? No one answers, because the answer is everywhere. In the intact roofs, in the full shelves, in the children who sleep without listening for sirens. Ernst turns onto his side, pulling the blanket tighter around his shoulders. It is warm, too warm. He thinks of the Russian camp, of the way suffering had flattened the world into something understandable. Here, the world is too large, too complex. This America is not a monster, it is a mirror. And Ernst is beginning to see himself in it, reflected not as a victim, but as something far more difficult to face, a participant, and he does not know who that makes him now, and doubt, Ernst knows, is where everything dangerous begins. Gratitude arrives first. It is quiet, almost polite, slipping into Ernst's days like a guest who knows not to overstay. He feels it when the coffee is hot, when the blanket is folded neatly at the foot of his bunk, when the guard nods to him in passing as if to say, "I see you." Gratitude makes his chest warm and his breathing easier. Then guilt follows. It does not knock. Guilt crashes in at night, dragging memories with it like broken furniture. His sister's letter, his mother in the cellar. The woman hanging laundry, unaware of the men who would never see such mornings again. Gratitude says, "You are alive." Guilt answers, "At whose expense?" Shame waits longer. Shame watches. It grows in the spaces between those two feelings, feeding on the slow erosion of certainty. It emerges when Ernst catches himself smiling, when he laughs at something Otto says, when he realizes he has gone an entire morning without thinking about hunger. He begins to ration his emotions the way he once rationed bread. The men talk less now, their conversations circle the same invisible wound. No one says the word Nazi, but it hovers over everything like smoke. The propaganda that once felt absurdly powerful now feels fragile, cracked by the weight of lived experience. One afternoon, a chaplain visits the camp. He is an American, tall, soft, spoken, his uniform marked with a small cross. He speaks in careful German, his accent thick but earnest. "You are prisoners," he says. "But you are also men." The sentence lands heavily. Men, some bow their heads, others stare at the floor. A few bristle, anger flaring briefly, anger at the implication that they had ever been anything else. Ernst sits rigid, hands clenched. That night he cannot sleep. He opens his notebook. If they treat us as men, he writes, then what responsibility returns to us? The question feels dangerous. Responsibility is heavier than chains. Another letter arrives from home. This one brings news of a neighbor executed for listening to foreign radio, of a cousin missing after a bombing raid, of ration cards cut again. Ernst reads it slowly, twice, 3 times. The walls of the barracks feel closer now. At dinner, Karl pushes his plate away again. "I don't deserve this," he says aloud, his voice trembling, "not when they have nothing." A guard overhears. He pauses, considering, then sits down across from Karl. "You eat," he says gently, pointing to the plate. "Starving won't fix the world." Karl looks at him, confusion and fury twisting together. "You don't understand." Karl snaps. The guard nods. "You're right, I don't." The simplicity of the admission disarms them all. Ernst watches the exchange, heart pounding. The guard does not argue, does not justify. He allows the gap between them to exist without force. That, too, is dignity. Later, Ernst walks alone along the inner fence, tracing the wire with his eyes. The sun is setting, painting the sky in bruised colors, purple, gold, fading blue. Beauty has not asked his permission to exist. He thinks of the Russian guards, of the way cruelty had been their armor, of how easy it was to hate men who hated you first. This is harder. The Americans do not demand gratitude. They do not ask for apologies. They simply behave as if decency is ordinary, and in doing so, they strip away every excuse Ernst has ever used. He remembers things now that he tried not to remember before. Marches through occupied towns, the way people looked at him, afraid, resentful, silent. He remembers not asking questions because questions slowed you down. That night, Otto speaks quietly. I don't know how to go home after this. Ernst understands home is no longer just a place. It is an idea that has been damaged. If we go back, Otto continues, we go back knowing. The word is heavier than any pack they ever carried. Ernst lies awake long after the lights dim. He listens to the breathing of the other men, steady, alive. He feels the warmth of the blanket, the fullness of his stomach, the unbearable privilege of safety. He whispers into the dark, not sure who he is speaking to. I didn't know. The darkness does not answer, because knowing now does not absolve then, and gratitude, Ernst realizes, is not the opposite of guilt. It is the beginning of it. The strangest thing is how quiet the camp becomes, not silent, never silent, but hushed, as if everyone is listening for something that never arrives. There are no screams here. No midnight removals, no boots racing toward the barracks with bad news clutched like a weapon, and that is the problem. In the Russian camp, fear was constant and therefore manageable. You shaped your thoughts around it. You dulled yourself. You survived by shrinking. Here, the mind is allowed to stretch again, and it aches. Ernst begins to notice the small freedoms first. The way guards knock before entering a barrack. The way complaints are written down instead of laughed at. The way Sundays feel different, not enforced rest, but a pause gently offered. Psychological warfare, he realizes, does not always involve cruelty. Sometimes it involves mercy. Letters from home arrive more frequently now. The front lines are collapsing. Germany is folding in on itself, city by city, certainty by certainty. Each envelope brings the outside world crashing into the fragile order of the camp. They bombed the factory today. There is no coal. The war will end soon, they say. End. The word once meant victory. Now it means reckoning. Ernst sits on his bunk, rereading a letter until the paper softens beneath his fingers. Around him, men whisper in low voices, piecing together rumors like fragments of a shattered mirror. They say Berlin is nearly gone. They say the camps are being opened. They say everything was worse than we knew. Worse. Ernst presses his palm against his chest, as if he can physically contain the knowledge trying to rise. One afternoon, a guard brings newspapers into the camp. Newspapers. They are translated summaries, clipped and careful, but even so, the headlines burn. Photos circulate quietly from hand to hand, black and white images of bodies stacked like cordwood, faces hollowed beyond recognition, places Ernst claims he has never heard of, but knows somehow are real. Karl drops the paper and reaches into the dirt. Otto sits very still, staring at one photograph as if it might speak. They told us lies. Someone whispers. No one corrects him. That night Ernst cannot write. The notebook lies open on his bunk, accusing in its emptiness. Words feel obscene now, too small, too neat. Instead he listens. A man in the next bunk sobs quietly, shoulders shaking. Another murmurs prayers he hasn't used since childhood. Someone else laughs once, sharp, brittle, and then stops abruptly. Kindness has stripped them of their defenses. In treating them decently, the Americans have returned something dangerous, self-awareness. The guards do not lecture, they do not force confessions, they simply continue as they have always done, offering food, structure, humanity, and slowly, inexorably, the men begin to collapse inward. Ernst finds himself watching the guards more closely now. The way they joke among themselves, the way they complain about the cold, about missing home, about trivial things that feel almost offensive in their normalcy. One evening, Harris sits beside Ernst on the steps outside the barracks. "War'll be over soon," he says. "You'll go home." Home. Ernst nods, though the word feels foreign now. "You okay?" Harris asks. The question is simple, genuine. Ernst opens his mouth, closes it. What answer could possibly fit? That night, he dreams of standing in his childhood street. The buildings are intact. The windows glow warmly. But when he tries to enter his house, his hands pass through the door as if he is made of smoke. He wakes with his heart pounding. Morning comes anyway, breakfast is served, work is assigned, life insists on continuing, and that, Ernst realizes, is the final cruelty. The war outside is ending. But the war inside, between who he was, who he believed himself to be, and who he might become, has only just begun. He writes at last, "They defeated us without striking a blow," he notes. "They let us remember ourselves." He closes the notebook. In the distance, a train whistle sounds long, mournful, final. Something is coming, and Ernst is no longer sure he wants to be ready for it. The announcement comes on an ordinary morning. That is how history arrives most often, not with thunder, but folded into routine. The bell rings, men line up, the air smells of coffee and damp earth. Ernst is halfway through lacing his boots when a guard enters the barracks, clears his throat, and begins to speak. The war in Europe is over. The words move slowly, as if they too are unsure they belong here. Some men do not react at all. They stand frozen, staring ahead, waiting for the sentence to finish. Others sit heavily on their bunks, breath rushing out of them in broken gasps. Someone laughs. Someone else begins to cry. A third man whispers, "Thank God," and then covers his face as if ashamed of the relief. Ernst feels nothing at first, then everything. The war is over. The sentence opens a door he has been pressing against for years without knowing what waited on the other side. Home, it promises, return, release, and with it judgment. They are told there will be processing. That some will go home soon, that others may remain longer. The words blur together. What matters is that the future has begun moving again, and it does not ask their permission. That afternoon, Ernst walks the perimeter of the camp one last time. The barbed wire glints in the sunlight, suddenly fragile, almost ridiculous. Beyond it, the same intact world waits: fields, trees, a sky unbroken by smoke. He remembers the day he arrived, the soap, the warmth. The thought that slipped from his mouth before he could stop it. This must be heaven. He understands now how wrong he was. Heaven is not a place where suffering ends. It is a place where excuses do. That night, he writes his final entry. "They did not punish us," he writes. "They let us live, and in doing so, they returned our responsibility." He pauses, pencil hovering. "If I survive what comes next," he adds, "I must not lie about this place." The next morning, Ernst is called to the office. Papers are stamped. Questions are asked. Names are checked against lists that seem too thin to contain the weight they carry. When it is over, he is handed a document and told he will be transported home within weeks. Home, he steps outside, the paper trembling in his hand. Otto waits for him near the barracks. They look at each other for a long moment, neither smiling. "Are you ready?" Otto asks. "No." Ernst says honestly. Otto nods. "Me neither." They sit together on the steps, watching guards go about their work, watching the camp function as it always has. Nothing looks different, and yet everything is. A guard passes by and stops. "Take care," he says simply. Ernst stands on impulse. He extends his hand. The guard takes it. The handshake is firm, equal, unremarkable. It is the most profound moment of the war. When the transport truck finally comes, Ernst climbs aboard slowly. He looks back at the camp one last time, not with hatred, not with longing, but with something heavier and truer, gratitude sharpened by understanding. As the truck pulls away, the barracks recede into the distance. The wire blurs, the road stretches ahead. Ernst closes his eyes. He thinks of his mother, of his sister, of the cellar and the broken windows. He thinks of the questions he will not be able to avoid, the silences that will follow his answers. He thinks of the men who will say, "We didn't know," and he knows now what that sentence costs. The truck hums steadily, carrying him forward. The land rolls past, green and patient, indifferent to his reckoning. Ernst opens his eyes. He is not absolved. He is not condemned. He is awake. And that, he understands at last, is what heaven truly is. Not reward, not mercy, not escape, but the unbearable clarity of truth and the lifelong work it demands. The road stretches on. Ernst Keller rides it home.